Have you ever noticed that you're completely normal in a relationship until you actually start to like the person? You're fine, you're chill, you're living your life, and then suddenly, the moment feelings show up, your phone becomes your life support machine. Checking it constantly. They haven't messaged me in 40 minutes. La la la, And it's like, in your mind that you're fine. Like logically, you're like, this person is busy, whatever. But emotionally, you feel like you've been abandoned on the side of the highway. Why is this? If this feels a little too accurate, you're not alone and you are not crazy. It's a very real psychological reasons on why this happens. And that's what we're going to unpack today. If you're new here, I'm Melissa. I help men and women understand deeper emotional and psychological patterns on how this shows up in love, dating, relationships. So inside the Sacred Heart membership, abandonment anxiety is one of the most common experiences men and women bring in. And it shows up right when things start to feel good, right when that connection starts to develop. And the reason that this shows up at this exact time is not random. It's rooted in identity, self-abandonment patterns, and over-reliance on external reassurance that your system was trained to depend on. So let's talk about it in a grounded and realistic way. I'm about to tell you something that you won't hear most places. Most places will tell you that abandonment anxiety or the abandonment wound comes from your fear of someone leaving your life. In actuality, it doesn't actually come from the fear of someone disappearing. It's about the fear that you won't know who you are if they do leave. That Fleetwood Mac song, Landslide. I've been afraid of changes because I've built my life around you. Yeah. If that person leaves, that you built your life around this person. Maybe not in that dramatic of a way. Sometimes it can be if it's a long-term relationship or compromise. You start to like mute your own boundaries, minimize your own voice, kind of shape shift to maintain closeness with people. And that becomes the subconscious way of staying safe. But this even happens in like crush situations. We start to curb our tone to maybe say things in a way or take a stance or position on something that we think might appeal to them to get them to like us. Ick, bro. Ick, lady. Like, we can't stop doing this. Stop doing this. You're beautiful, exactly who you are. But the problem, I think the problem is a lot of the times is like, we don't actually know what our positioning is or our stance is. And this is why it's so important to not live passively. Because when you live passively, you let the world tell you who you are. You let other people tell you who you are instead of you deciding who you are and moving from that place, right? So here's the problem. The more you've abandoned yourself historically, the more intense your fear of someone abandoning you actually becomes. It's psychological. When your brain doesn't feel like you are the stable source of safety, it starts treating someone else as the anchor. So the minute that anchor moves or takes space, your nervous system panics. This is a scary place to put a lot of power because we cannot control other people. We can only control our response and our reaction to life and what we turn over to God, right? And so your nervous system panics not because this person is necessarily the love of your life and not necessarily because anything is actually wrong, but because your brain is reacting to a lifetime of slipping into self-abandonment the moment attachment appears. This is why calm logic doesn't help. Your mind actually knows better, right? Your body is acting out of a survival pattern. It's fighting for you. You're fighting for yourself. Now, here's why I want to offer something that's not talked about a lot today. And I'm going to say it gently because it's not meant to shame anyone. When we continually place our emotional stability in someone else's hands, it starts to function as a form of psychological idolatry. I don't mean this in a big dramatic spiritual way, although it can be, if you know, you know, but it also shows up in a very human way where another person becomes the center of your emotional world. A lot of power is given away. You're giving it away. Stop giving it away. Stop being a cheap date. You are a jewel. You are a jewel of heaven. So it's the moment when your brain basically says, I need them to feel okay. And that's a sign that your sense of identity hasn't been built strongly enough within yourself yet. Now, this doesn't mean you're worshiping someone. Right now, I'm getting an image of, if you watched Hey Arnold, that cartoon growing up as a kid, Helga Pataki has like, she like literally worships Arnold. She has like a whole, in her closet, she has a sculpture made out of chewing gum of Arnold. And it's like this whole thing that like, she like is worshiping him in the darkness and the shadows, unknown to anybody else, right? It's so funny. That's not what I'm talking about. In a way, the more energy and thought you put towards someone, I mean, are you kind of making them an idol? Like, think about it. Think about it. Could be very real. So, but it just means that your system is trying to outsource safety to a person instead of creating it internally. And that's a cue. That is a cue that you are ready to build identity from the inside out instead of from the outside in. A cue that something deeper wants to be strengthened. And the more your identity stabilizes, the less power these anxious patterns have, right? This is not because you stop caring, but it's because you stop kind of like depending on someone else. This is also why just relax, stop overthinking, or detach more never works. It's so easy for people to say that, on the outside to someone like us, right? But it never works. And that's exactly why. So you can't talk your way out of something that your identity hasn't grown past yet. The anxious behavior isn't coming from your thoughts. It's coming from parts of you that were never given permission to form an identity separate from keeping someone close. Once you start seeing it that way, everything clicks because the solution stops being fix your behavior and it starts becoming strengthen who you are. Obviously, this is not something that you can heal in like a weekend or just from a few cute affirmations. Identity work is layered. It's emotional, it's psychological, and yes, occasionally spiritual because you're rebuilding a foundation your reactions sit on. And that's why things change so dramatically when men and women get support, frameworks, and community around this topic specifically. It gives them structure, it gives them clarity, and it helps them to access a version of themselves they've always been capable of being. In fact, to truly build your identity, there are 8 specific categories that you need to develop within yourself. And that takes time. If what I'm saying is resonating and you're realizing, okay, this is literally actually me, no shame in it. I've been there. I've worked through it and I've helped hundreds of men and women also work through this as well. I want to give you an invite to the Sacred Heart membership. This is where we walk through these patterns in a structured way. We identify where the self-abandonment started and how it's showing up in your nervous system and how to stabilize that identity and how to break the emotional patterns that keep recreating the same fear. Inside Sacred Heart, we address abandonment, rejection, sensitivity, anxious dating cycles, emotional regulation, and how to rebuild relationship from a grounded, whole, internally stable place, and not from panic or fear or hoping someone else makes you feel secure. Although you probably didn't know that that's what you were doing before, but now after watching this video, I hope it's made clear. If you want to learn how to tear down the old patterns of depending on someone else for emotional stability and build a stronger, more confident identity from the inside out, Sacred Heart is the place to be. So the link is below. I would love to see you inside. If this video helped you or made something click, make sure to subscribe, like the video, share it with someone who needs it. Generosity. You have no idea what an altar of generosity in your life can do for you and for others and your relationship with God and how you walk in peace amongst the world, right? So truly, I cannot wait to see you inside of Sacred Heart because this work is what changes everything.